I'm the fastest reader in the world.
Boom! Yeah! Yeah! Fuck him up, Goku! Hit him with your blue blast! Piccolo, hit him with your beam gun! Vegeta, stall for Goku because that's pretty much the only thing you can do. I mean, what the hell is Vegeta good for other than being edgy kids fan service? When I was a little dumbass kid, at the crib, by myself, I would turn on some Dragon Ball Z on the most affordable TV my parents could buy and have the greatest time of my life watching these made-up characters fight to the death. And after the battles, the winners would always either completely murder the other person out of existence or laugh it off and eventually become best friends. And when it comes to the second outcome, usually there was some sort of life lesson that could only be learned by a gladiator-style fight to the death. Not to say that there's anything wrong with that, but after I finished Dragon Ball Z and started watching other anime, I suddenly realized that I literally had no sense of what makes a good fight in a show. Like, if you ever get into a cycle where you only watch animes with fights in them, you kind of forget that fights in real life look more like this. But looking back at all the animes I've watched over the years, I kind of realized that Dragon Ball, yes, Dragon Ball Z, Super, and any other versions that come after, may have the lowest standard for fighting in any show I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, you can literally see them replaying the same cycles of punches and kicks during the fight. And I'm not saying that animators can't do this, or fighters in real life can't do this, but like, besides the beam struggle and a few big hits, this is the entire fight. And please don't even get me started on when they teleport and fight at the same time. Like, can we see what's happening? All I see is a bunch of white blinks and Krillin holding his dick in his hand like, ahem, I can't even see them anymore. Bitch, you couldn't even see them back in the Frieza arc. How do literal fan animations, which most of the time is usually done by one person, make better fight scenes than studios with all the time and budget in the world? Oh, and please don't feel bad for them because besides this last Broly movie, they do this shit often. Like, you remember that epic Gohan versus Perfect Cell fight? Don't you remember that sick exchange at the beginning of the fight where Gohan and Cell throw hands? You do? Well, that's probably because that was the only exchange of fists in the entire fight. Well, aside from Gohan kicking around the Cell Juniors like an underpaid babysitter. And I know that that fight was meant to be one-sided, but the minute Cell regains his advantage, they just go ahead and have another beam struggle. It amazes me how many people think that this is the best fight in Dragon Ball Z. And before you start thinking I hate beam struggles, let me just explain that I absolutely fucking hate beam struggles. I mean, you're basically just measuring whose dick is larger, which, I mean, I personally don't have a problem with, but think of the less well endowed. How do you think they feel? They couldn't control what they were born with. But anyway, even though I do have a problem with beam struggles, what I don't have a problem with is fights in the air. And Dragon Ball somehow always manages to fuck it up. And besides the newer Dragon Ball movies, which by the way, are always going to have better animation because of the longer time frame, you'll notice that Toei Animation has this habit of only showing the good parts of the fight while the fighters are on the ground. And then they go in the air and either play patty cake with their hands and feet, or shoot a giant beam to see who has more big dick energy. I mean, there's definitely examples of when they don't fuck it up, but more often than not, they pull the same bullshit I was talking about earlier. Regardless, I still haven't got to the main point, and you still haven't subscribed. So if you want to make sure that my next meal isn't ramen noodle soup or Kraft dinner with hot dogs, please hit that like and subscribe button. Anyways, instead of comparing Dragon Ball to itself, let's try comparing it to other shows. Alright, time to talk about one of my favorite shows, Naruto. wait. Sorry. That's the wrong clip. I meant Naruto. Now, I know some of y'all hate Naruto because...
Was that a filler skit just now?
Hey, a little bit of filler never hurt nobody.
You could have told me it was a filler skit in the beginning.
It was a nice little side story though.
But I watched it for the first time in 2020, and fortunately, I had the benefit of the all-powerful fillerless, and didn't have to experience. Holy shit, that's a lot of fillers. Alright, if I had to watch this shit on live TV weekly, I'd probably hate Naruto too. But moving on, let's take a close look at one of the best fights in Naruto, Rock Lee vs Kimimaro. And pay attention because I'm literally going to have a counter to keep track of how many hits they actually land during the entire fight.
One moment, please! I am so sorry, but I have to take my medicine at a certain time. Whatever it is the worst tasting medicine I have ever...
Gotcha, bitch!
Guy Sensei, I did it! All your training has not been in vain!
Psych! Psych!
Now, did you see that? During that whole fight, only a couple hits landed, but when they did land, you literally feel the impact. It's almost as if getting punched really hard hurts. I mean, obviously, normal people don't get launched 30 feet back after a punch, but we're talking about Dragon Ball Z and Naruto here. I don't think realism is really a factor. And not to mention, I don't think any other show portrays how hard it is to hit someone who has good movement better than Naruto. Anyways, now let's try counting how many punches land during one of the greatest fights in Dragon Ball Z, Piccolo vs Android 17.
Face it.
He beat me. How? Just how could he beat me?
Stay down.
There's no way to win. Meet me there and we'll end this little game once and for all. It doesn't make sense for you to die out here in the middle of nowhere when we have no interest in killing you.
Well, soon you'll realize that the people on this planet aren't logical at all.
Fine. I see. You're just bluffing, aren't you?
Men. They just have to destroy everything.
See what I'm saying? No pun intended. I'm sure you noticed that there's a lot less tension when it just feels like two grown-ass men punching each other. But anyways, just to prove my point further, let's move on to another show. Ah, Demon Slayer. The little red-headed stepchild that refuses to be put down. Now, the reason I picked Demon Slayer is not because of the animation, but rather the style of the show. And yeah, I know that I'm comparing Dragon Ball Z to a sword fighting show, but hold on, wait a second, isn't there still fighting in a sword fighting show? Yeah! Thank you, other me down the hallway. Regardless, sword fighting shows usually follow the same laws as Naruto, where usually not many hits land, but when they do, it's extremely effective. However, Demon Slayer takes this to a different level, as the work that Tanjiro has to go through in order to land one hit is ridiculous. Like, were you not on edge that whole time? I mean, obviously you know that Tanjiro is probably gonna win the fight because of, well, plot. But seeing how he does it, and the effort and work he has to go through to achieve victory, that's the real fight. But enough sentimental bullshit. Now it's time for my sleeper pick.
Let's go!
Now, considering Kengan Ashura is a Netflix anime, I'm just gonna assume that some of y'all are like me and can't afford Netflix, and thus never heard of Kengan Ashura. And wait, I know what you're thinking.
Alright, y'all ready to go?
Yeah.
Wait, who got shotgun? What's that? Ichigo?
No, it's Shinji.
Who the fuck is Shinji?
I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was Ichigo too. This whole time.
You know, from the Netflix original?
Okay, that's where I draw the line.
I've never.
That's where I draw. Get out the car, Shinji.
But hey, I mean, give this one a chance. I know that it's CGI, but I don't care what y'all say, this shit is hard.
The shortest combos delivered at max speed. Furthermore, impromptu strikes can be thrown while deflecting the opponent's.
The first 3 episodes start off incredibly strong with amazing fights every episode, but then it starts becoming more and more plot driven, all the way up until like episode 7, which is also kinda weird, since I literally can't remember a single detail about the plot of this show. I mean, the fights are top tier, don't get it twisted, that's why it's on here, but every time the story decides to focus on the old middle-aged man, rather than the actual main character, the episodes can sometimes feel like a complete slog to get through. That being said, since some of y'all are completely unaware of this show, I'll briefly sum up the important parts of the plot. So essentially, billion-dollar companies choose fighters from all across the planet in order to represent them in the Kengan tournament. And don't ask why or how they're fighting because I'm honestly not sure myself. But regardless, the best part about Kengan Ashura is the fighters all use original, real fighting styles that actually exist all across the world.
Is that his hair? Uma was unable to land the kick because Inaba's hair is wrapped around his leg.
Or, well, at least most of them do. Like, for example, this crazy bastard named Sa Peng is from Lithuania and is one of my favorite characters. And do you want to know what type of martial art style Lithuanian fighters use? Here, I'll just let his crazy ass explain it to y'all.
Okay, let me explain it to you. The skull is key to mastering Lethway. After starting Lethway at age 5 and practicing it every single day, I've got the strongest skull around. It's as strong as a samurai warrior's helmet. My skull keeps my brain safe and sound from any and all attacks.
Did you hear that? And it's not just normal headbutts either. He literally smacked his head against ridiculously hard objects his entire life, all for the sole purpose of making his skull stronger. And normally you'd be thinking, well, wouldn't smacking your head against ridiculously hard objects every day eventually cause major brain damage? And it did cause him major brain damage, hence why he's always screaming and trying to fight everyone. Now if that isn't good writing, I don't know what is. However, it doesn't stop there. They got a fighter from Canada who is literally just an extremely angry hockey player. They got a pro sumo wrestler that doesn't use sumo. And a guy that uses boxing and is from Thailand? Okay, that one doesn't really make sense. Never mind, it doesn't need to. But anyways, I still haven't got to why these fights are so good. Well, apart from the fighters using real martial arts that they literally explain, every single gladiator has their own unique way of fighting. I mean, not all of them use the same martial art as where they came from, but in real life, fighters don't always use the same fighting style that they grew up with either. But whether it be training your skull to become durable enough to deflect bullets, fighting with your hair, which is a stupid ass trope by the way, or literally surgically implanting blades into your skin so you can use them in a fight, is all allowed. Of course, there are a couple of guys that are just heavy hitters, but the thing with heavy hitters is, usually, the more tragic their backstory, the harder they punch. And speaking of punches, another thing that I absolutely loved about Kengan Ashura is that when characters landed punches or kicks, you could visibly see the damage. And obviously in real life you can't always visibly see damage, but I think Kengan Ashura does a great job of showing how being hit feels, and where the damage areas are when you get hit. At least compared to Dragon Ball Z, where their health bar is indicated by how much clothes they're wearing. And another thing, and this is what honestly made the show for me, the fights are realistic.
Standing 6'8" and weighing 364 pounds.
Or, well, I mean, at least grounded in reality. And what I mean by that is, a lot of the techniques that you're going to see in the show all exist and are used worldwide. Like, for example, this kid with blonde hair is obviously way smaller than his opponent, so he does the smart thing and goes for his legs. And it goes deeper than that, like, even the way they do their fighting stances. It all coordinates with what style of combat they use.
Alright, there we see the Lethwei Muay Thai stance. Here we go.
Okay, boxing kind of stance, and that's a kyokushin kind of way.
Nice light, very side-on boxer stance here from Gaolan, and very much a counter fighter's style here from Kaneda. He's sort of standing his ground.
And then there's this fight, which is without a doubt my favorite scene in the whole show. And in the scene, we see this guy with gray hair and a guy in a full bodysuit forced into a grapple exchange. And just watch. Now, this may just look like two people rolling around on the ground, having a good time, but I can assure you that that is 100% not the case. Don't believe me? Well, I'll just let Burridge martial arts instructor, Max Burridge, explain it to you.
Alright, so he hits him over the top, gets him off balance, gets the shoulders up, opens the hips up, hits him with the double leg takedown. Oh, beautiful. So anytime you're striking from the guard, if they can trap that arm, especially there, Okubo kind of came in, he had one arm back, one arm in. Having one arm in and one arm out of someone's close guard is a terrible idea. You will get triangled every single time. I almost get, if the person knows what they're doing, you're gonna get triangled. That's exactly what happened there. They broke, he came in, swung for the punch, left his other arm back, boom, leg comes up over the shoulder. The only thing that I'd like to see here from Kano is him change the angle a little bit to try and make the triangle a little bit tighter. To do that, he's got to hip up, pull the arm over, and then boom, cinch it back down so that Okubo can't get his arm out of there. Tightens up the angle on the choke and just sinks it right in. Beautiful transition into double plot, a nice escape. Oh, the jiu-jitsu in this sequence is just so amazing. So what happened there? He has the side control, he's got the headlock, and he just sits his weight up a little bit high. And if you're strong, again, like they have to be in a bad position. You can't just roll someone over if they're in side control. I've rolled with guys who are like 250, 300 pounds and been able to pin them just with good position. But the second that you lose good position or you sit back up a little bit, it takes your weight off, they're able to just hug you and roll. And if someone's strong, yeah, they can get away with the same thing. All right, so we have some more ground and pound from the closed guard here. Yeah, control the posture, takes away those punch options. Beautiful hip. Oh, all right, we got mountain ground and pound here. Really bad position to be. Okubo's just wailing away. Kano's just watching, covering up. At this point, something's gonna get through. Beautiful, big hip bump. So from there, Okubo's not got his hands to post. He's punching, he's busy, his weight's sitting forward a little bit. So he times it as the punch is coming down, his weight's coming forward. Boom, hip bump, just picks him up, throws him over. His hands are too busy. He can't post. That's why he comes off. That's how he gets the escape. Beautifully timed. And again, you see this all the time in jiu-jitsu and in MMA.
Like, judging by the amount of times he said,
beautiful, so beautifully timed, and again, beautiful.
I think it's a fair assessment that this was a great fight. That being said, I don't plan on spoiling any more details of the show, so let's move on to the Epilogue. Alright, I know I've been talking shit about Dragon Ball Z this entire video, but I need to say that I don't think all of Dragon Ball's fights are bad. However, every time they come up with something innovative, like Ultra Instinct for example, they go ahead and ruin it by having scenes like these.
So, who would you say has the upper hand now?
I think it's too early to tell. That said,
Like, it's just lazy. And yes, I know that animators need sufficient time to create innovative fights, but it's like they're in the writing room and say, okay, so Toppa's gonna shoot his finger blast at Goku for a bit, then Goku will attack Jiren, and then we could fill up some more time with them doing the air blast thingies. And yeah, I get that they're fighting really fast, but one, just because Goku's moving at 3 gazillion times light speed doesn't mean he can completely neglect the passing of time, and 2, there's something about slowing down the fight and seeing how each fighter adapts and counters each other that can really elevate a fight from mindlessly throwing light speed punches at each other to a fight with, I don't know, tension? And guess what? When all else fails, and by all else, I mean punching the other guy the same way for 3 minutes straight, they'll just say, fuck it, and shoot a giant beam blast, like maybe that'll work. Not! Like, at some point, does it not start to get stale? And let's not speak on the hours of dialogue I had to skip when trying to find these clips. Like, I don't understand why everyone only chooses to begin their conversations as soon as the fighting starts. And I mean, that's okay, I guess. Or, well, at least it would be if the conversations didn't literally last longer than the time frame they set for themselves. Like, isn't it kind of funny how Toei Animation always messes up their time frames in Dragon Ball and somehow also always run out of time and upload poor quality episodes? Like, at least plan a little bit ahead, or just do the smart thing and remove the time frame completely. However, the last thing Toei Animation will ever do is take responsibility. But anyways, I hope I was able to raise your guys' standard as to what a good fight looks like in a show, and to just be aware when animators pull off lazy shit like this. And if you're a huge Dragon Ball Z fan and somehow still made it through this video, I want you to understand that it's okay to like something and objectively accept that some parts of it are bad. Like all of Gohan's bullshit power boost that he got with a combined 10 days of training, or Goten and Trunks being able to go Super Saiyan right after they complete their potty training. But I'm getting off topic. I guess what I'm trying to say is, Dragon Ball Z was the original shonen show, and whether it liked to or not, it influenced a shit ton of other anime shows that came after it. And you have to admit that Dragon Ball was the one that influenced a lot of these lazy scenes we see in anime today. And I know it can be a hard chew to swallow, but chin up, because it's not the end of the world, and you Dragon Ball Z fans can finally watch a show that doesn't have Goku in it. Anyways, like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing y'all in the next one.
Between me and you, it's a major difference. I will never end this for no recognition. I'm just making up for a lifetime of losses. Heart wanna help, but my soul want vengeance. I just wanna turn the whole rise to the bosses. Whatever it costs us, you know I'ma spend it. This for all the nights I was turning and toasting. For anybody cross me, I hate them like Chris. I'ma let them watch it, but know they can't sit. Only got stand-up guys in attendance.